Welcome to the View from the Rock podcast. I'm your host, Ruck, and I'm here with Papa Swappa and Morgie in the Yellow Dog Studios. It's been a long time since we've gotten to record a podcast. I think it's been about 3 weeks. That whole spring break thing happens and everyone starts to go their separate ways, and we've had a busy spring here, especially us coaches and parents who have kids that are doing sports. So, Papa Swappa, how you been? I feel like even though we work together, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks.
It's been good. It's been busy. Like you said, we're all coaching, and then we all have kids. Well, you do not actually have children, Mr. Ruckdashel, but we,
Thank God.
Mr. Morgenthaler and I have kids, so we're doing our own things and then chasing our kids around. It's been busy. We're in the heart of the spring right now.
I feel like it's been a month since we've been together instead of 3 weeks, and there's so much that I'm excited. There's so much we can talk about.
We've got a lot of ground to cover today. What are our topics today, Mr. Ruckdashel?
Oh, right. Getting back in the swing of things, I guess I should have introduced that. Well, we're going to BS here for the first little bit, and hopefully I'm going to keep us on track so we can actually be under an hour. First, after our little catch-up, we're going to be talking about best Australian bands. After that, our beer of the week, followed by top 3 music videos on MTV in the 80s, which I think I will find to be a challenging topic for myself.
Well, I don't necessarily think it can be 80s, just MTV music videos that we grew up watching.
Fair.
Formative years.
So that could be to mid 90. I don't know if MTV.
Oh, I was on the TRL bandwagon, but we'll get there because I don't want to waste that content. But
No,
I can manage. So I see that we've had some lacrosse going on recently.
Lacrosse has been good. I think in the last 3 weeks they've went 3-1. Continuing to play well. Emmett's killing it. And they kind of have a thing now where Rowan has scored 4 goals in the last 4 games, and he's been the last goal scored, and it's kind of like the dagger. Like they know the game is over.
We saw a little bit of the game last night. We had a little impromptu trip down to El Jinete, a fine establishment here locally, and then followed that up with the second half of the lacrosse game.
On Rice Field.
On Rice Field.
I have a lot of regret. I wanted to come to the game last night, but I was busy doing the picture thing for the track team. But I went to the previous game that was at home, and Rowan and his role, I would say, is a pretty important one. I'd say he's sort of like the human victory cigar. Right?
That's a great analogy.
I'm trying to think about the Sonics when they were at their height of their powers. They had this really uncoordinated, tall white guy.
Steve Scheffler.
Yes, thank you very much.
I believe he was actually the Big Ten Player of the Year at Purdue.
That is right.
Similar to the Lakers, also had the guy from Stanford, Mark
Madsen.
Yes. You need that guy off the bench who's, the rah guy. In the last 2 minutes, victory's in hand, and let's get him out there, and he needs points.
That's exactly what Rowan, he fits that bill.
The human victory cigar.
That I can't wait to tell him tonight when he gets home.
You might have to explain
What
victory
that means.
cigar.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Some videos of Michael Jordan with his cigar after games.
Well, you see a lot of them now. Like Joe Burrow did that for LSU.
Oh, that's true.
Like they're starting, I guess it's PC now to have a cigar in the locker room in college.
I like a good cigar.
Cohiba.
I have too many regrets about cigars.
We could talk about cigars as one of our.
Maybe on a future podcast.
Yeah.
I might need a vomit bag if we do that.
I once smoked a cigar at 10:30 in the morning while I was mowing the lawn, just to get a reaction out of Mrs. Swap, and I succeeded.
Oh, that probably didn't go over well.
It did not.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would take.
So speaking of real quick cigars, Merle has a nice little ensemble at his house.
I don't know Merle. You've mentioned Merle
Jeff
before?
Schaefer, Merle
okay.
Inc.
Does he have a humidor?
He does, with 100 to 200 cigars in there. He will be actually one of our first sponsors of the podcast.
Oh, beautiful.
Merle Incorporated.
Yeah,
based in Cleveland, Washington.
when I picture a room that has a humidor full of cigars, I picture there's a lot of soft furnishings, like a lot of velvets and leathers in that room. There's a lot of low lighting.
Where is his humidor located?
His humidor is located in his basement, and it does not look anything like that. It looks kind of like Yellow Dog Studios, just with a big TV and about twice the size of this room.
Is it like a smoking room?
No, it's just that's where he keeps them.
I'm sure that those other parts of it are aspirational.
How about track, Ruck, this week?
Yeah, you know,
Skagit County Championships.
115th Skagit County Championships, the longest running sporting event in the state of Washington.
In any sport.
Yeah.
It's like the Lafayette and Lehigh of Washington high school sports.
115 years.
And there were a couple records broken by...
Yeah, so first, I didn't even realize it at the time, but I went online and I went back as far as I could in what we call athletic.net, and it goes back to basically my senior year of high school. So my records are still in there, but you can kind of see how we did as a boys or a girls team, and this was the best boys performance we've had that I could find. We've never finished in the top three, never had over 100 points, and we were number 3 for the boys, 107 points, and it was despite being without maybe one of our top point scorers, we did really well. I was proud of them.
You know, we've talked about this. This may be one of the greatest years in Anacortes high school sports history.
I think it is. With also the newly formed co-champs, the baseball team.
Baseball team is co-champions
In the league?
in the calendar year 2023, and are just waiting for the playoffs.
Now, I don't know what the answer to this is, so I'm going to ask it, and I'm hoping and guessing that the answer is Seahome. Who are you co-champions with?
Not Seahome.
Oh,
Seahome sucks this year.
Well, we might play them, so let's
sorry.
soft
Yes.
step the Seahome sucks stuff a little bit.
Well, they have in the past.
Yes,
We will respect every opponent when we get to the playoffs.
that's right.
No,
We are co-champions with our friends from the north, Linden, as well as our friends to the east, Mount Vernon. We all three went 13-2 in league and beat each other and lost to each other in a way that makes us all co-champions.
Shout out to Mr. Coach Swanson and
Coach Walden.
Coach Walden.
Yeah,
They deserve a shout out. They're loyal listeners now, I believe.
They are, I believe, friends of the podcast, as is Linden coach, Coach White, also a friend of the podcast.
nice.
Our digital footprint is expanding.
So, just to clarify, any of that Seahome hate was definitely not coming from Coach Swap today. That was from Morgie as a fellow coach. Yeah, we'll soft step that. I'm not going to put that on you.
But can we talk and
Briefly.
briefly talk when we played Seahome?
Was
Mr.
that been 3
Morgenthaler?
weeks?
It's been it'll be 4 weeks on Tuesday.
And was that a 10-run game?
No, but close.
10-2?
But what I really want to talk about, it was 8-0. What I really want to talk about is their uniforms.
Hey, so this is a whole thing you had your. Can we get to that in a second? I just want to make sure I get my track stuff in before we do that and lose all basis. of
Hey, real
reality.
quick though, Ruck.
my
I think you
gosh.
did a little look at me, Louie, when you said back when my records were still there.
No,
What
I-
records do you have?
So I know as soon as I said that, I didn't mean it to sound like
Oh.
I had records. Like if you look at athletic.net, I'm in the top 10, but that only goes back to like 2006.
And is that in shot, discus, javelin, those areas?
You know, I didn't throw discus until I became I didn't throw javelin even once when I was in high school. Not even like, hey, let me try that. I had no interest. I think I looked at that and I knew it wasn't my speed and knew how my body functioned and said, I think shot and disc are my lane to stay in.
So I think we have a generational thing here within our recording studio where we have 2 members of our group that predate the internet and another that actually had the internet while in high school.
I mean, I had the internet in high school, but as I think, an example of how cutting edge it was at the time. The first year that there's athletic.net records is 2006, which was my senior year of high school. So it was like just happening. And I didn't even realize it at the time when I was in high school. So I don't know if they were using it really, or if that's just been added after the fact.
So all of the records pre-2006 are just written down by the coaches? Because I see like track, and Coach Templeton has a list of like top 10 in every event,
So
going back like 50 years.
So yeah, there used to be an actual wooden track board. You're going to get me going down a rabbit hole right now, but this is good. A wooden board that we used to have displayed that had all of the records for track and field for boys and girls.
I remember it.
And so between that, because when we did the whole remodel, that was put into the auxiliary gym, of which many things I think were
Stored.
forgotten about. I don't know whether what happened to them. So I'm not going to say they were thrown away because I don't know. But between that and lists, I think that Brad has come up with, the head coach, Brad Templeton, he kind of has tried to recreate his own list. And I think that for the most part, he found one that had a lot of the old ones, like a hard copy. So I think it's pretty accurate. The one caveat to that is if it's a very old record that is a timed record, it would be hand timed and therefore faster than if it was electronic time like we do now, because we have video that we do for timing. And
So hand timing is faster?
Yeah, because it's based upon that first movement. And so once you see it, there's a delay between you and your thumb hitting the button. And so, we're talking tenths of seconds for a 100-meter dash, and that makes a big deal.
And do you now use state-of-the-art timing equipment?
State of the art, that I'm not sure if I would use that phrase. I bet the stuff we have is close to 20 years old. I could be wrong, but it does use electronics. There's a video that we get to see where people finished at the finish line. But relative to what we originally had with hand timers, it is state of the art. Our last track meet, the gun didn't work. So that actually did mean there were some issues.
I was there.
Yeah, it kind of made things go late. So thankfully, we have our last track meet of the year this Wednesday, senior night at home, and we have a new pistol that works.
That's what I heard.
So,
I'll be darned.
And I will be there, same spot.
Running javelin like
Reverend
a pro.
Javelin. It's going to be amazing.
So
We're a well-oiled machine now.
What day is that?
Wednesday.
I will be scouting a baseball game Wednesday
Speaking of,
All right.
where are you going?
to watch the game.
Correct.
It will be at Seaholm High School.
So real quick, getting back to Seaholm.
I never even talked about track. I actually have two quick things. Okay. First of all, I would just add on that Doug Knutson. Do we know?
Yes. He's been
helping
very adamant
So he's helping
about the track records.
He's helping a lot with the track records. He's actually getting that board and redoing it and improving it and finding a place to mount it at the stadium.
That's awesome.
it's
The last
super
time I
awesome.
saw Doug Knutson, he welcomed me to town.
That's right. And he also, there was a little issue last week maybe with the 200 or 100 or 400.
At
The
meet?
record? No, just possibly Brock beating the record.
He did not.
Yes. So
Yeah, it may have been reported that it was beaten, but it was not beaten. Yeah, so there's that. So a shout out to Doug Knutson. Appreciate the help with that, and that it'll be recognized at the stadium so that any season that's there, any sport, will be able to see that.
that's great. That you see that at all the other schools too.
Absolutely.
Like records just for years.
And as I'm about to say, our records are pretty important. So Anacortes wise, so at our county track meet, the girls won 160 points was how many we scored. I think the next closest team was like 124 or something like that. And two county records fell, 1,600 meters and 3,200 meters. And I think the 3,200 meter record is now 20 seconds faster than the previous one. and
It was like 1984 from Mount Vernon.
yeah, it was like a 38-year-old record. And I might be mixing. I forget which one was the Jessica Friedland. I forget which one she beat her own record.
The mile.
I think it was the mile. I think you're right. And then I think it was the 2 mile.
What was her mile time, just so I can get some context?
4:58.
It takes me 4:58 to get from my desk to the door.
Yeah. And then her,
458. Where does that put her at the state currently?
yeah, so 4:58, and then she ran a 10:37 for the 2 mile. For the state, 4:58 puts her for 2A as number 1 right now. Her time for the 2 mile is number 2. And there's, if you look at all classifications, I think she's maybe 3 or 4 for each of those.
Where is state for track?
It is at Tahoma High School in Tacoma.
Beautiful Tahoma High School.
I mean, it's big.
Tahoma High School in Tacoma or in Maple?
Yeah, so I think Mount Tahoma is in Maple. I know there's Tahoma and Mount Tahoma.
So Mount Tahoma's in Tacoma.
Okay, well then that's the one.
Okay. Because our buddy Steve Meyer, his kids go to Tahoma.
Stevie Bang Bang.
Yep, the maestro.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that.
So
Those
that's-
2 records will probably never fall, never be broken.
Well, that's the beauty of records, Ruck.
I mean, when you
They're
look
always meant to be broken.
no, that like, hey, people should try to break them.
I know,
Like they
but-
should, just like I saw this week with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Set your goals, try to achieve the goals. If you don't get them, they're steps towards still achieving your goal. It's not a failure. So if you want to beat,
we could talk about this. They still failed.
depends. How do you define failure? Okay.
Well,
do we really want to talk about this?
no,
Because we're already
this will
15
be a
minutes in.
different-
Okay.
So, any more track
No,
updates?
no, we're good. We're good. Baseball. Let's go to
We got,
baseball.
hey, we got what league meet coming up or districts after?
After that, then we have sub-districts, districts, and then state.
So not a league meet.
No, we used to do a Northwest Conference meet, and it was, kind of pointless. It didn't mean anything. So, yeah, now we just go right to sub-districts, which is broken up into north and south, and that's the qualifier meet for districts.
And then state, and then we got playoff baseball.
Playoff baseball right here at Anacortes, Washington, starting next Saturday. It's one of the best, for my money, and obviously I'm a baseball fan, but for my money, it's one of the best high school events you're ever going to see. We've got 2 fields going, 8 teams, great tournament.
And you will know the opponent on Wednesday night.
Yes, going to go watch a game up at Seahome. Speaking of Seahome, what did you think of their uniforms when they were here over spring break?
I think about when Ruck thinks about smoking a cigar, like throwing up.
Can you describe this color you saw? Because I have no idea.
It is the pukiest greenish yellow.
Like,
They-
is it a neon green?
They sometimes they're green and yellow. Okay. They sometimes wear green tops, yellow pants. Sometimes yellow tops, green pants. And then when it's a really big game, they will often go full yellow.
It's awful.
And
I
it's
was-
not you asked, is it neon? No, it's like a very dull 1970s kind of a yellow.
Like a canary yellow?
That's still a little too yellow.
Canary yellow might even have this,
Like
it's almost
goldenrod?
maybe, but with some texture to it. And then the green is like a deep green, like a forest green.
You're
Not
getting
a
into
Kelly
some of my
green.
favorite things, describing different colors with words. I love
It's
it.
awful. It just makes us hate Seahome even more with the uniform color. Standing there talking to Ross on the third base line. It just, And then when they drive up, they parked right next to me in their nice little BMWs. And I swear the dad had a cardigan on.
Oh, jeez.
Walking to the baseball game.
It's tough when you've got 2 very, I don't know if prominent's the right word, but you got 2 strong colors like yellow and green, and you don't have any sort of neutral kind of color. Like Anacortes has purple, which is strong, can make a statement, but we've got white also. And so it kind of can tone things down.
You know, even the Blaines and the Monroes of the world that'll have black and orange. They're two strong colors. They're not my favorite color, but as we see with Halloween, they're colors that work together. Seaholm there's no accent color. There's no complementary color. It's just this green, yellow shock to everyone who's there.
Now, their track team does often go base black, and then we'll do some yellows and greens on top of that. And
That would work. That would work.
yeah, I think that's a better direction to go.
It's just shocking.
But I think also, real quick, with the Seaholm, a week later, you played Squalicum. That uniform was almost as worse as Seaholm.
There's a new trend out there where a lot of high school teams are showing up in uniforms where the pants from afar look like something that would be business casual.
Yes. And you can't even see Squalicum on their uniform on the top.
It's like a dark, like every once in a while a basketball team will order a uniform where the refs say it's illegal because you can't see the number. And it's that kind of a
You
look.
could only see it like through the sun glaring off of their uniform where it says Squalicum a little bit.
You know, I think that can be a problem. Like, I don't think it was this year's, might have been the years before. Our girls' soccer team had black uniforms, and their numbers were a dark purple. And looking at their uniforms from the stands, I couldn't see what the numbers were. Not to throw shade on our team. That was
Who do
not
you
my
think?
purpose.
And I'm just going a little sideways here on you guys. Who do you think, other than us, because we're the obvious number one choice, who do you think has the best uniform combo in our conference?
You know, it's tough. I mean, I think it has to depend on the sport, unless you just want to go based upon colors.
When I look at the history, I remember like early 90s, late 80s. I liked Mount Vernon and I liked Bellingham.
I love the Kelly green.
Yeah.
The Kelly green, not the deep forest green that Seaholm has, but the Kelly green.
Yeah.
They almost look like it's St. Patrick's Day in Peoria, Arizona at spring training.
But I don't want to talk too high on the mountain for Mount Vernon.
No, they get kind of cocky.
Yeah, I don't think I have an opinion on colors of other teams. Hey, moving on. Do we have something that we want to say about some sort of secret that's been bubbling beneath the surface? I mean, I want to say I think I only found out about it today, so it's super secret. Some people in the podcast didn't even know.
There are people that know about it. We've talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, the secret podcast is building. Like, it's building big. So we have secured a venue.
We do have a venue.
We do not have a date yet set.
No, working on synchronizing everyone's calendars.
We're going to have to add extra security.
We do. I know we've talked to a few people about being an extra presence.
Big shout out to possibly the person that is going to host our podcast,
Mr. Lisenby.
Mr. Jeff Lisenby. For those that don't know, Jeff is the owner of The Anchor, and that is going to be our location.
The Anchor Inn, Anacortes, Washington, right across from the bagel shop.
It's true. That's a great venue for it. I'll be honest, it makes me a little nervous with the idea of doing a live show, but
It's going to be amazing.
you know, I'm always surprised by the amount of charm I seem to possess. So I'm sure it'll be great.
We are going to invite people, and we do have a limit. So if you are a loyal subscriber or listener, you could be receiving possibly an invite.
To thank you for your loyalty.
Yes, continued patronage.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be. People are talking about it. It's something that people are talking about.
At water coolers, probably.
It could
if those existed.
It could end up.
Still.
It could end up after it's all said and done as one of our top three.
What? What?
The the secret podcast that we host could be like, what are our top 3 podcasts of all time? It could be up there.
Oh, yeah.
You eventually want to do a top 3 of our own podcast?
Maybe.
Wow.
That's like meta top 3.
That's big time. That's when you know you've reached it. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, are we ready to move on to our first actual topic of the day? Musical genre, the best Australian bands, or are we in need of a break?
I think we're good.
Okay. So, musical genre that we're talking about this week, if it is a genre, I don't know. Best Australian bands. Now, this isn't like only rock or only alternative or whatever. This is if your band started in Australia, I assume regardless of whether they were born there or probably need to be born there.
I think they're all born and raised there.
Okay.
When I think about this genre, you know, I have my good buddy from college, Brett Jeffries, is from Australia. We actually talked to him and a few others, Bretty O, Nathan, my Aussie group, and Mr. Swap. We had a student.
Yeah, we had a student that we asked her opinion on Australian bands, and I think she came up with one that we had not thought about that will come up when we talk about Australian bands.
So her dad is in the Navy, Australian Navy.
Correct.
So they're over here for a year. So when you think about the best Australian band ever, like if you had to rank them number 1, I think it's AC/DC.
I think that's indisputable.
They obviously have the largest reach. I mean, they're big time.
And they're Australian aside, they're probably on a top list of any band.
Right. If there was a podcast that had a top 3 on it for rock bands, they would probably be in the top 3.
And I think when you think about AC/DC, I think they just unapologetically are what they are, and they rock.
If I want to get amped up before a game, or if I'm lifting weights, or on the treadmill, or anything like that, there will be an AC/DC song in my mix, no matter what.
Yeah, you know, I don't know how the younger generation feels about the workout music they use, but for me, AC/DC's there. Metallica, AC/DC. There's a few others, but that's a top one.
No, I've never seen AC/DC.
I was fortunate enough to see him one time in Portland. I believe the year was 1998, and I was working security. And I worked security primarily just to watch AC/DC.
What venue?
It used to be, it's now the Moda Center.
Where the Blazers play.
Yes.
Oh.
But it used to be called the Rose Garden.
That's right.
And so a friend of ours from Pacific, Jeff Grunden, shout out to Jeff, his best friend was head of security. So he would call and say, do you want to work this show? I'll get you in. We show up, Sean Eaton and I, and they're like, okay, you're going to stand right here. So I am standing, if the stage is facing directly in front of me, to my right, and I have no responsibilities just to stand there. So I am standing next to Angus Young while he is in his little schoolboy outfit on one leg going across the stage. It was amazing.
If you were here in the studio, and if you're listening to this, you are not, you missed out on seeing Mr. Morgenthaler pantomime an Angus Young solo.
Yeah, this is a good point for me to just recognize that there's a number of people who have said that we need to have video for this podcast. And being the technical director
That would have
of
been
this
amazing.
podcast, I would just like to say there's a lot of time and money that would be involved in going to video. So, you know, I'm not saying
If we had video, what we just saw would have been top 3.
yeah.
It was
Top 3 moments.
It
yeah.
was a great experience to just see them up close, but also to see how many people showed up with their like 5 to 7 year old son, fully dressed like Angus Young.
Now, when did Angus Young pass away?
He is still alive.
What? I thought he died.
His brother, Malcolm.
Correct.
So Angus is still.
Yes, and they are, I think, about ready to put out a new album?
Really?
We might have to fact check that
Well,
down the road.
Metallica just put out a new album.
Yes.
I'm
So I think,
not,
yeah,
I'm not into it.
you're not into the new Metallica album.
Not
Oh,
really.
I haven't heard it yet.
I've been trying, but
Okay.
it's not there.
So back to the Australian bands, we'll look at that AC/DC. Anything else that comes to your mind immediately, Mr. Swap?
For me, what comes to mind immediately is Midnight Oil.
That was not what I was expecting you to say. I have no
No?
idea who that is.
Well,
So they have one song that maybe Ruck has heard.
Beds Are Burning.
Beds of Burden or Birding, yeah.
Beds Are Burning.
Burning or Burden?
No, Burning.
Burning.
Yes.
This might be one of those ones like when we did our Canadian one and we listened to him at break.
No,
'cause we
I
can't
definitely
listen to
know
it
this
now,
song, and I can handle this song and like it. It's not like the Bare Naked Ladies.
No, I know. I'm just saying at break you're gonna have to play some of these songs. for me.
Yes.
You would
just-
know this song.
There's only
I'm
one
not saying I
song
wouldn't.
though that I can identify with Midnight Oil.
And
And
it's that,
that
song.
song.
Yeah. Remember the video?
Yes.
Yeah. There was fire, and their singer, if I'm not mistaken, is tall and bald.
Yes.
And
There's a lot of great tall bald people.
yeah. So we also have from Australia In Excess.
In Excess.
That's the only other one I've never heard of on this list. You just named them. Oh, I haven't heard of Crowded House either.
So Crowded House is not a big. So if I like when I hear back from Brett and he said AC/DC, In Excess, Crowded House, Bee Gees.
And I did not realize the Bee Gees were Australian.
Yeah,
So
no
he
idea.
has Bee Gees as number 2.
Bee Gees are huge.
They're big.
I listened to the Bee Gees in the 80s. Like my mom was a huge Bee Gees fan.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Fever,
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Travolta.
you could argue maybe that Bee Gees are bigger than AC/DC. There's an argument to be made.
They could be.
They basically were the headlining of a whole different musical genre that was created at one point.
Well, unless we forget one of our favorite Australians, Olivia Newton-John, Super Sky Point.
I don't know what that means.
She just passed away.
Yeah.
Super Sky Point? Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, for another one, Men at Work. Like, who can it be now? That's the name of the song from Men at Work.
Little River Band.
And one of my favorites, like, if I had to, like, this is my number 2 now.
Silverchair, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same with Mr. Johnston. We were talking about it last night.
They're an alt rock band, right? Like they're the grunt part of
They
the
were the
grunge
grunge
scene.
that started in 95. They were 17 years old. There's only 3 of them in the band.
Okay.
And they are still performing. The lead singer has gone through, I think he had anorexia or
Eating disorder.
Eating disorder. Struggled with fame. But they, in 1995, when I heard them at Pacific, it was amazing. 2 years. Sean and all those boys made fun of me because I just listened to Silverchair all the time.
Do you know what
Frog
city
Stomp.
they're out of?
No.
Okay. Maybe that's something we can check at break. You said Men at Work, but you didn't say Land Down Under. That, to me, that's the only one I even know of them.
Is that the name of the song?
I am not a huge Men at Work fan.
But
I do not know.
I come from a land down under. I don't know if that's the name, but those 2 songs.
That would make sense.
Who can it be now? And then that song, we'll have to look it up.
Okay.
So there's one more. Speaking of Mr. Dave Harris, Rooster, today at the lacrosse game, brought up Kylie Minogue.
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah,
Ruck?
I remember her from the 90s or
Late
early
90s?
2000s. Like, I feel like I can specifically remember a music video of hers.
So she was like a pop artist
Okay.
that went big. And I think possibly she might have even dated a celebrity
Yeah.
singer.
Can someone fact check that for us?
But Kylie Minogue. But otherwise, I feel like Heather, Sign Dog's significant other, would like Kylie Minogue or Olivia Newton-John.
For sure.
Olivia
So-
Newton-John is like Canada's Anne Murray.
You know, so I hadn't really looked too far into the Australian bands, but in just a little Google search here, I already found some that we didn't mention that not only do I think are really good, but I think that you would like. Have you ever heard of Wolf Mother?
Oh yeah, I forgot to put it down.
Yeah.
I
so
told
good.
Swap that this
You
week.
played a little Wolf Mother.
I
for me
did
the other
because
day.
I know
Wolf
you love.
Mother.
I told
Yeah.
Brock he loves Wolf Mother. I love Wolf Mother. When
love
they
'em.
came out, Joker and the Thief.
Oh, that's big. They still play that kind of stuff in the
Yeah.
stadiums. You know, that's funny. When you think about Australian bands, obviously AC/DC is a big stadium. They have some stadium rock songs. Also Wolf Mother.
And
you
see,
know?
I spaced it. I had them down.
So the other two bands, Empire of the Sun.
So I said that to Pat, but I know of one song we heard. We played it, and
Oh, I like a lot of their stuff. And the last one, which I think is the most popular recent band, is Tame Impala. Have you heard them?
no.
I've heard the name of the band.
Yeah.
I can't.
They're a band that would be played a lot on like 107.7 The End.
I believe Air Supply is Australian.
Oh,
Really?
Somebody might need to fact check that.
I'm all out of love.
A lot of songs that maybe you would have had on Como AM radio back in the day.
what was the other thing that I need to fact check? So Air Supply, soft rock duo formed in Melbourne,
That's in Australia.
or as you would say if you were from there, Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Oh, wow.
There's no R.
There's no R's.
So I had an Australian roommate in college, a guy by the name of Bob Zdravevsky. He came to the States to play baseball.
That's not a very Australian last name, it feels like. but
No,
Can you say that name one more time?
Bob Zdravevsky.
Oh,
Dravesky.
Zdravevsky.
Stravesky.
Zdravevsky.
I'm sorry, listeners. That was the most painful thing I've ever seen.
God.
But
Just
he came to play baseball, and you know, by the end of his stint here, he was not playing baseball, but he was selling a lot of Amway.
You know, I don't think baseball is probably much of a sport there because they've got cricket, right?
They got you got Ryan Roland Smith.
It's still
Oh, so
it's still pretty. It's not. It's
they
bad.
have,
yeah.
they have baseball then.
So you're looking at Aussie rules football.
Yep.
Sydney Swans.
I'm a West Coast Eagle guy, and Rock, you'll find this out when you go there that Perth is the West Coast Eagles for Aussie rules, and
They've got another one. The
well,
Doc-
now, but it was West Coast only,
Yeah, that's who my brother supports.
and it was the whole entire country and West Coast. They hated West Coast.
Yeah, they were like one of the most successful
Yeah.
teams.
So when I went, I spent 3 months there in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And went to a game, 120,000 people at an Aussie Rules. It's one of the greatest events I've ever been to in my life. And there's only like 8,000 of us rooting for West Coast. So we were playing like Carlton or Collingwood, like the Mud Pies, I think.
Yep, Collingwood Mud Pies. I know that's right.
So it's amazing. You're gonna have a great time.
The other team in Perth is the Fremantle Dockers.
Okay.
Because Fremantle is kind of I don't know if they would call it a suburb, but it's part of
Yeah.
Perth. As you were alluding to there, yeah, I'm going to be going to Australia this summer, not for all of July, because Perth is probably one of the most challenging places to get through. Perth is the northwesternmost side of Australia, and some would call it the most isolated large city in the world.
Yeah.
And so to get from where we're at to Perth is really a pain.
Or you have to fly into Sydney or Melbourne and then
I mean, if I were to fly from Seattle, I would have to probably go, like the route that they would take me would be probably to Los Angeles. And then from Los Angeles, I'm trying to think, they might have you go into a connecting flight in New Zealand then over to Sydney and then from Sydney to Perth. So
that's exactly what I did.
Yeah,
So
it's
I flew Portland to LA, LA to Auckland,
Yep.
and then Auckland to Melbourne.
Yeah. So
And then from there.
yeah, no matter what you do, it's going to be multiple stops.
And it's a 5 to 6 hour flight from Sydney to Perth.
So Perth is west.
Yes.
Sydney is east.
And in the 90s, they always said, I never made it to Perth where Brett's from, but they were like, it was like the grunge Seattle type of Australia in the 90s. and they have beautiful beaches. You go a little bit farther north, and there's what's called Broome, and you're literally a mile or an hour, or not even, to Bali.
So my brother lives currently in Perth, and he's been to Broome. Like, that's where they go vacation in the wintertime, which,
Yes.
of course, the wintertime is July. Really starts in June, July, August, because it's the
Yes.
opposite of us. So that's where Australians go to vacation.
And so Brett's dad lived in Broome.
Oh, wow.
How do you spell broom?
Broome, I believe.
Just like it sounds.
That sounds right. Yeah, and then, that's the crazy thing is, there's places that are close to where we live that you don't think of. Hey, if you don't live near, like, say you're not in Washington, Hawaii is maybe not a destination that you're thinking about going. Just like Bali's not really a place we think of, but my brother's been to Bali. Like, it's an easy place to get through.
And it's like an hour and a half flight
Yeah.
from Perth.
I feel like I'm getting a world history lesson here.
But
World
it's beautiful.
the Southeast Asian countries, like, it's just open to you
Yeah.
if you live in Perth, like all of them. And one of the flights you can take that's fewer stops, but it's just way more expensive, is you can do a flight from, it's either Seattle or Los Angeles, maybe even Vancouver, to Singapore. And I think it's a 17-hour nonstop flight. And then from there, I think it's another 7-hour flight. Like, it's brutal.
You're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
And I will, I'm going to talk to Brett this week, and I'm going to hook you up so you can meet him.
We might have to do, because the summertime is going to be difficult anyways, but we have to do a little podcast over Zoom during the summertime. So that might be a nice little, I'll podcast in from
Perth.
Perth.
When are you going to be in Perth?
So I'm thinking of not going the way that you went. I'm thinking of going through maybe Hawaii from there to South Korea, then down to like either Singapore or one of those countries, and then to Perth. And so that's going to take a bit, and I'll try to spend some time in each of those spots, 4 to 5 days. So it probably would be the last part of July is where I would be, but we'll see. I haven't booked it yet, so I need to do that soon. I could go either side, so we'll see, but it'll be July.
So when I think back to our Australian bands, when I'm at the gym, Silverchair is in my top 10
Wow.
for songs. So
And
Tomorrow is the song.
And maybe just to close up with the Australian band, circling back to the one that we had recommended to us on Friday, I think a lot of parents out there are probably familiar with the Wiggles.
Oh. Ruck, do you know who the Wiggles are?
I don't even know how to spell that.
Wiggles.
The Wiggles. I've heard of the Bangles and the Buggles.
A lot different than the Wiggles.
So the Wiggles are basically, if you have a kid from the ages of 2 to 4,
Ooh, definitely don't.
20 years ago to the last 10 maybe,
Yeah.
you have heard of the Wiggles.
Yes.
Oh, this sounds like it would be adults that are live acting some sort of children's show that would be extremely painful.
They
to
are
watch.
adults that just,
And they made millions of dollars.
they
sounds
play
familiar.
children's music and they just play their ass off.
And they traveled around the world
And they're Australian.
to go. You could go see them, like in Everett. I almost took Brennan when he was 3.
The Wiggles.
The Wiggles.
Brennan was a big Wiggles. I watched 3 hours of Wiggles, like 3 to 5 hours a week of Wiggles TV. So they sing songs like Cold Spaghetti and Hot Potato. Hot potato, hot potato.
Wow.
Toot toot chugga chugga.
And anyone in my family that is around, I know Andy's listening right now.
No, he's not.
I know Bree and Reese will.
Well, do you remember the pirate guy?
Yes.
Do you remember his name?
No.
Captain Feathersword.
Oh, yes. You're giving me nightmares. Like, I literally still have 10 DVDs of the Wiggles here.
Wow.
So there was Jeff. There's like 5 of them, and they all have a different colored outfit.
Like, wouldn't they wear
Full
like
on purple, full on blue, full on
kinda
yellow.
like turtlenecky kind of things?
Wow. Yeah,
So anyway, the Wiggles.
this sounds scary. Well, I guess we can wrap up our Australian segment with that. Do we need a break before we dive into our final two topics for the night?
We do. We need to take a little break so we can work on our beer of the week.
And after that, we'll have our top 3 music videos on MTV. And we're going to do this efficiently because my goal is to do this in under an hour. And we've got 15 minutes left. Welcome back to the View from the Rock podcast. We were just at break. I think that we said we are going to do some fact checking of some things that definitely didn't happen. I think we said we are going to do some going over of some things we're going to talk about. And I don't know if that really happened either, but break's a break, and we're ready to talk about our beer of the week, which is called Future Forward Northwest IPA by Crux Fermentation Project. And if you're looking in the store for Crux, it's pretty easy to see because their symbol really stands out to my eyes. It's a 4-way arrow logo. So if you took a square, or would you call that a rhombus? I don't know. Kind of turn it on the side, and you've got arrows going out from there.
It's the same orientation as a baseball diamond.
There you go.
Yeah, with
helpful.
arrows going all 4 directions.
Yeah. So, is there any sort of a backstory on how this was chosen, or any information that we need to know about as far as, the hop characteristics, Jason?
Well, we were basically researching beers this week, and my wife happened to find a beer that Mr. Swap and I hadn't ever drank.
And that's
because it's hard to find because
Yes.
we are legendary status,
according to Untapped.
which is, for those that don't remember, that's 1,000 different beers that we have consumed.
Dude, but there are so many beers at places like Rosario or Steinman's that I've never seen in my life that you got to find something. I mean, you never know
we
if
do.
it's good.
We remember we used to just try and look for a beer
Yeah,
that we didn't drink, and then we were very excited about it.
we would, and we'd text each other, and it was we'd get a lot of badges.
Yes. That was another thing, is just how many badges can you get?
Yeah, I don't need no stinking badges.
So, real quick, this is the write-up that I found about the Future Forward Northwest IPA by Crux. Here at Crux, we believe that the future of the IPA lies to the northwest. Oregon-grown McKinsey hops lead the way with notes of bright stone fruit, citrus, and a distinctively piney dankness, while malted rye and a supporting cast of Centennial and Citra hops bring it home with added complexity and a big aroma that declares the future has arrived.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Real quick, I just want to drink the beer. It sounds like we're somewhere where it's flowing robes, like just anyway.
Like we're drinking this in a steam room right now.
I don't know.
So Crux, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of many fine breweries that you'll find in Bend, Oregon.
Yes, so it's a 6.5% ABV. Untapped gives it a 3.98 out of 5, and this is a fairly newer beer. There was only approximately 800 reviews
Wow.
on Untapped.
Wow.
I think anytime you're within, I'd say if you're 4 plus or minus 0.1, I think it's normally a really good beer. That's my opinion based upon
What do you
I've
think?
seen on Crux.
I haven't given it a try yet. I'm going to give it a try right now. Future Forward Northwest IPA.
I think it's good. There's a little bit of, I would say, I get the orange flavor, the citrus they're talking about.
Yep.
There's that bitter pininess they talk about. Not sure I would describe it as dank.
I get no dankness out of
Yeah.
this, but I'm going to try another drink.
Has
How
anyone
do you
ever had
taste
a stone fruit?
dankness?
I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
dankness, when you have a beer
Just-
that has some dank, you
Is it
drink
like
it and you're after you drink it, you say, "Oh, that's danky."
Is it like skunky?
Yes.
A little bit. So
So like a Corona or a Heineken type?
Yes. Like Corona was the original beer that had a little bit of dankness.
yeah, definitely. You get that little bit of, I think of it more with Heineken. I think they're both owned by Constellation Brands, but yeah, Heineken definitely has that. I used to actually have a Heineken pour thing to where you could get the little Heineken pony kegs and you'd pop it in the back and you could just pour yourself Heineken straight off the tap at your house.
wow.
My wife is a Heineken lover,
I
and I am not. She will drink. She will ask when we go camping, "Can you pick me up a 6-pack of Heineken?"
I'm not a huge Heineken
And
fan.
drinks Corona and like Pacifico.
Is
She's a danky lover.
that like Rolling Rock, would you say, Heineken?
Rolling Rock gets 0. Oh my God! I would rather not drink beer on a
Rolling-
beach.
Is Rolling Rock even exist anymore? I feel like I don't see it.
Yeah, it does. It's got the old
Sucks.
the old what's the thing on the back? The old 33 or the old 37 or some darn thing.
Okay.
But Rolling Rock, I agree. It's like the rush of cheap beer.
I think that when you're first
Hey
entering,
now,
and when you're first entering the beer landscape, you see that and start to think, well, it's a little more expensive than all these other cheap ones. It must be, I'll level up, and it's not.
It's so watery.
but speaking of, like now when you go order a beer at the bar, it's $8.
Inflation.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I know.
No, I like this beer. It's not, there's nothing magical about it. But it's a nice beer. It's a nice IPA.
It's a 1. I mean, it's part of this new craze with the 4-pack tall boys where that probably costs $15. That kind of drives me a little crazy because I don't know. I'd be much happier, I think, where you give me a 6-pack of 12 ounces, and that way I can try more things. Sometimes if I'm trying something new, like most of these new ones are, these 16-ounce ones, maybe I don't want 16 ounces of it. It's new. I have no idea.
Now, have you ever gone to the Rosario market and they've got the little pop your beer into a thing, make your own 4-pack, make your own 6-pack.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good way to go. But you do that, and you end up spending $20 for a 6-pack.
$27.10 exactly. Because I was at your house last night and did that. But also bought a couple ciders for the wife that were 22s.
Yes.
I was at Rosario the other day and I had a double phaser. It was really good. One of the better beers I've had in quite some time. But I want to say for a 4-pack of 16, might have been $24.
Yeah.
Like, wild.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Speaking of Rosario, the real door, is looking better. The house
Well, I went there with
is
my
looking
daughter.
better.
I went there with my daughter the other night. And she doesn't go to Rosario very often, but she happened to be with me when I was going to Rosario. And we pulled up, and she said, "Why do they have a door?" and I said, "Don't you listen to the podcast?" And she didn't know what I was talking about.
Yes,
So-
a real door.
Like,
Two
you go
things.
through.
Yes.
In case you don't know what Rosario is, it's Rosario Market as you're heading into Anacortes. It's on the right-hand side. It is the best,
Greatest.
Yeah, it's not just a bottle shop. It's a convenience store, basically. But at this point, its greatest purpose is the varieties of different beers, craft beers that it has.
They have beer on tap.
Yeah.
Oh, they do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
forget
growlers.
that.
The
Yeah.
Oregon boys, when they come up every year, their first stop is Rosario.
It's a great little spot. Like if you looked at it from the outside, you'd probably want to pass it by. It doesn't not it's not a looker. But then recently, a car crashed into the front door, and therefore they had to replace it with, I think probably the cheapest option, which was to frame it up like a actual house and have a door like an actual house.
It's really unsettling every time I go there.
It's
'cause
weird.
I think it
used
adds to the ambiance.
Well, it does, but it used to be like a traditional storefront where there's glass, and now it's like you're walking into a
Your
barber
grandma's
shop.
house.
Here's the one nice thing about it. That door always gave me fits because it looked like one where you could push or pull it, but it was not a push or a pull.
No,
you
it
had
was-
to pull it out. And every time I would go to leave, I'd give it a little pull, and feel stupid, and then I'd have to push it out.
Yeah.
It is the one place I will say, though, that when you walk in, they're rocking out.
They are.
Oh, and they say hi to you?
Oh, they're nice. Like, I don't know the guy. Is he the owner, one of them? But he will always like, hey, try this beer.
Yeah.
Because you guys like these beers. And let me know if you find one that's not here, and I'll get it for you.
And last time when I got that double phaser, he was like, hey, just watch out. These will hit you pretty quickly. I don't know if you want to do more than one of these in one night. And I was like, you're right. Yep.
They also, a lot of times, will have like football on when you go in there.
Right.
Yeah. And then they also have weekly picks
They do.
that you pay $5.
And I'm going to even go one step further. There have been several years where I go in around Christmas and they give me a Christmas gift.
And they give gifts to the people that frequent the establishment the most.
Wow.
Bottle of champagne.
I'm upset. I've never gotten
I got one too one time.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are a different level. This was during your 1,000 beers.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we went, about 10 minutes further than I thought we would there, and that's fine, But at this point, I think we're ready for our top 3 music videos on MTV. And I definitely do not want to start this because I'm not proud of.
Well, I'm looking
I have
at
to say.
our notes, and I think
Don't.
this is Ruck's list.
No.
I don't even understand what those things say.
You know what? Here's the
That's
problem.
gibberish.
The problem is for me, I didn't encounter music through music videos. When I was going to elementary school and middle school, I'd get home and I'd put TRL on with my brother and we'd watch Total Request Alive with Carson Daly, and we'd see a lot of videos, but then we'd go to Napster or whatever and we'd download them. And that's how we'd listen to them.
So were the videos? I remember seeing that, like TRL and how it was big. Was it more of pop bands or like NSYNC, Britney Spears, like those types that were on TRL?
If something was on the top 10, like it could be on there. So Pearl Jam could be on there. Anything could be on there. I know that what I wrote down was a lot of pop, but that probably reflects my quickly decaying memory at this point, and just stuff that I was exposed to and what I listened to at the time.
So when we brought together this topic, I was thinking more of the video aspect and not necessarily my favorite band.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So when you look at my top 3,
Yeah.
you're going to say it's going to be, this is the video that first came out and I saw it and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Okay.
Because that's how we were
Because that's how we were
13
exposed.
years old, 15
19,
years
what,
old.
85? Did we get MTV?
I was going to say 84 because I think I was 13. But that's how we were exposed to music. And MTV just played videos
24
over and over
hours.
again.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, Headbangers Ball,
Yep.
which I would watch in college and just,
And then look at the old MTV VJs.
Oh.
Mark Harmon.
Kurt Loder.
Kurt Loder was a little later. Yeah, I remember the Remote Control.
Remote Control was amazing.
And then Downtown.
Julie Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those guys. So, okay. So we're going to go. This is how it's going to work. We're going to each give our 3, then our 2, and then our 1.
Sounds good.
So, Swap, do you want? I'll go first.
You want to go first?
So my number 3, I had a hard time because I just think just seeing this video for the first time, and then also I like the song, but I just happen to look here at Ruck's.
Don't look at mine. I'm just putting every thought I have in my brain down there, and it's going to eventually change.
So this video is animated too. So it's Dire Straits' Money for Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
It's also a great song.
When you watch the video,
Yeah.
remember the dog and just it's kind of more animated.
Yeah.
And then it goes back and forth.
It was cutting edge at the time.
It was.
We
And
could do a
wait,
whole podcast talking about videos.
well, and if I'll wait till you guys are done with your your three, but just see if one of those, my 3A or B,
Yeah.
came up. So swap.
So my number 3 is a Metallica video, One. Because if you remember this one, they were cutting back and forth between some weird movie and some guy had been like maimed
Yes.
in the war. And
Crazy.
it was like, whoa, this is some weird crap here. And I had
Heavy.
listened, yeah, and it was kind of, I'm sure Metallica had other videos before them, but I don't remember that. It was kind of the first time that we actually kind of saw those guys, and the video was just super weird.
Well, and those sounds make it into the actual recording, like the actual song. In it.
Like
Yeah.
the is it gunfire?
Yeah. Yeah. And people yelling.
When I remember when they came out with that song live at Memorial Coliseum, and they hear the,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh yeah, that's awesome.
I wish I had those memories. That would be amazing.
So, but they used to artists would put money and invest in these videos
Yeah.
because that's how you got exposure for us watching them. It was all about the video on MTV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Rock, number 3.
So I'll just preface this by saying I don't think any videos made that much of an impact on me. I'm just trying to remember all the ones from watching TRL at the time. And I definitely remember my number 3 one, which was All Star by Smash Mouth. I just remember they were like driving this car, I feel like, through space. It was, I want to say, a weird video. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say other than that.
So, hey, now you're an all-star?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. You've heard it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm old.
You know that song.
I do.
Yeah.
It's
but
a
I
toe-
don't
it's a
remember
toe
the
tapper.
video.
It's definitely a toe
Oh,
tapper.
yeah. Toe tapper.
Yeah.
So, real quick, my 3A was Aha.
Yeah, that was, and you know
Take
what?
on Me.
And
remember how you went back and forth?
Yes, and they were like drawing stuff, and the guy came off the sketch pad.
Yeah. See, that was like new. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like a great example of what you talked about, where that's not necessarily my favorite song.
Yeah.
But that video was like that was a key.
You always sat there and watched the whole video.
It was mesmerizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aha is
Do they have another song that you know?
no, but I'm trying to think of what European country they are from. Are they Norwegian?
We might need to fact check that in podcast number 7.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
So number 2. You ready?
Yeah.
My number 2. God, it just blew my mind when I saw it. Van Halen, Hot for Teacher.
Oh, yeah. So that's going to bring up my 3A when it comes back around to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just how they had characters that looked like them, dressed like them at like age 12.
Yes.
And they're sitting there together. Yeah, just that whole I mean, watching Van Halen videos in the 80s too. It was crazy.
Well,
That changed your mind. Like that changed me. Like looking at the end and the big hot rod.
yeah. So my 3A was any video that involved David Lee Roth.
Oh,
Because he was like, there was a point in time in the 80s where he was probably the coolest man in America.
yes.
And second place wasn't even close. Wow. So do you remember when he did California Girls?
Oh yeah. All the
So just like
that's not even legal
no,
now.
no, it's like this super average version of a Beach Boys song, and it was every 15-year-old boy's favorite video ever.
Well, so see, for me, the ones that I remember at this point, I would describe also as in a similar vein as every 15-year-old boy's favorite video.
Yes.
But when you like Hot for Teacher, they start getting up and dancing, and then you have Waldo,
Yeah.
and he's sweating,
Yeah.
and then you got little mini David Lee Roth smoking a cigarette, or Alex Van Halen, and then they get, I don't feel burned, all just the little one-liners. from
Man.
Hot for Teacher.
That was the greatest era.
And they're walking on this, just walking on the tables.
Do you
at
remember David Lee Roth again doing Just a Gigolo? Mm-hmm. It was another one where it's like, when that came on, you were like, oh, this is my favorite video.
Yeah. So Rowan loves David Lee Roth. He wants to play that 80s David Lee Roth all the time.
Who doesn't love David Lee Roth?
And just how he talks, he's like, ooh, like just some of the stuff he says.
Do you remember the talking guitar in Yankee Rose?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So my number 2, because that was 3A, my number 2, and this has come up before on a previous podcast, but Walk This Way with Run DMC
And Aerosmith.
Because, it was like, I mean, for me, honestly, it was probably the first time I'd ever seen Steven Tyler. And I thought, God, this guy's crazy looking. And then Run DMC, it was really kind of the first introduction to rap.
And they joined.
And
that, yeah. No, I remember that video. Remember he's banging on the wall?
yes.
And then, oh, yeah. I love that. That's a great.
And I bet our number 1 is the same one.
I don't know.
It might be. Okay, Ruck.
Number 2.
Yeah. You know, I'm just going to continue on with the theme of 15-year-old boys' favorite videos. Britney Spears' Toxic was pretty just, it was big time at the time.
Well, Swap was 30.
Okay. Yeah, so what would that make? I was definitely in middle school, I think, then.
What year?
I'm 35. How old?
So the year 2000?
Is that when it came out? I don't know. If it was 2000, I'd be...
Well, 99, I think her first debut was it Hit Me One More Time?
Hit Me Baby One More Time, yeah.
So you graduated in 05. So
06.
Oh, yeah. So 2000, 2001.
Middle school.
According to Google, that video was released in 2003.
So
You were a freshman.
end of freshman year.
I was 32 years old.
Oh, yeah, baby.
He stares deep into my soul.
That means I was 28.
Oh my gosh, I'm old.
I have nothing else of value to say about that music video other than I remember it specifically.
Okay, Morgie, what's your number 1?
So my number 1, I think it took, I don't know how long for them to release it, and just the release date and just watching it is Michael Jackson Thriller.
Oh, yeah.
That's not your number 1?
No.
I definitely thought about it, but
Oh my God. Like, it's 24 minutes long.
it's a movie.
And it was amazing. And it was scary.
Yeah.
Like at the end. And then, is it Vincent Price?
Yeah.
Just, I mean, that whole video, it gives me chills.
Can we just talk for a second about how talented Michael Jackson was?
Like when you look at Thriller, that whole album, oh, Beat It. I didn't realize till 10 years later that Eddie Van Halen did the solo
Yeah.
on Beat It.
Wow. Billie Jean.
Oh, TLC,
When did that album come out?
1984.
Yeah.
So that was right where MTV. But that when we watched that, remember watching that on MTV, like at night, and you're like, oh my God, that's scary.
Yeah, all these people are dancing
Zombies.
around and they're zombies. Or
And all of a sudden they just start the choreography.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that
for
should be
and-
everyone's number 1 because like ever since then on like Halloween nights, like when we were in college, there'd be a Thriller dance that would go on downtown and you could go in and join it through the streets.
And
of
they
Bellingham.
do, like they're practicing it. We practiced it at Bayview, I remember. They're like, we're going to do Thriller.
Wow.
Okay.
So my number 1, again, not my favorite song, but in terms of iconic videos, Twisted Sister, I Want to Rock.
Yes.
You got Niedermeyer from Animal House. I don't even know the guy's real name, but he's Niedermeyer. You got Dee Snider.
And Niedermeyer's the dad.
Niedermeyer's the dad.
I would just like to say I finally watched Animal House for the first time.
Oh, there you go.
No way.
Yes.
I was at home.
I wanted to
and
watch it with
I think
you.
I was doing some photo stuff, just sitting on the couch, focused, and I had it on the background. There was times where I just stopped all the photo stuff I was doing and focused on it. It was like probably 10:30 in the morning on the weekend. It was excellent.
It's a cinematic miracle.
Did you
It's
see
ridiculous.
It's awesome. Is that a pledge pin, Niedermeyer, on your uniform?
Yeah, Niedermeyer is the worst guy in the world.
Which one is Niedermeyer? Remind me.
He's the one
He's the
drill sergeant.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then he disappears from public view for like 7 years, and comes back in a Twisted Sister video.
And then eventually,
And he's the dad.
he's the maestro in Seinfeld.
Yes, he is.
But now that I think about it, Twisted Sister, that video, that's
That's D.
3C.
D. Snyder. Is that right?
D. Snyder.
Because
Twisted Sister.
the kid's trying to figure out what he wants to do. Remember, he's like, "What do you want to do with your life?"
Yeah, and then D. Snyder voice comes out of the kid and says, "I want to rock."
And then all of a sudden, they just destroy the house.
Yeah.
And the
I remember
makeup.
that, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I feel like we should have ended with your guys' number one. My number one, well,
It's in sync.
no, it's not. My number one, because I can remember it vividly. It's probably just the dumbest music video. Has nothing to say other than, so it's Shakira, and it is whenever, wherever. And basically the whole music video is it's going to different locations around the world, and she is superimposed over it, just dancing and shaking her hips the whole time. Like, that's the music video.
Well, I can see why that would have a lasting impression on you.
And it was a catchy song.
Were you also 15
I guess I can look it up.
or 16?
Let's see.
Hey, while you're looking that up, honorable mention, Tawny Katane in Whitesnake videos.
Yeah. Oh. Maybe
So it was released in 2001.
Guns N' Roses' Patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were snakes.
Do you remember November Rain?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a great video, but that was also Axl getting like super ostentatious with things.
Just on a total 360 this week on the Lebitard show, one of the guys referenced oeuvre.
No.
Yes. And I about just jumped out of my chair.
Maybe he's a friend of the podcast.
I wanted to just yell into the screen, how do you spell oeuvre? All right, Ruck.
Well,
What were you looking for?
I was looking to see the music video, but 2001 is when it came out. That means I was in middle school. I think that would have been like 8th grade for me. Big time. I always remember when 8th grade was for me. Just this is kind of a somber note to end on, because it was when the 9/11 attacks happened, 2001,
So that was September.
11th.
Yeah, and I was teaching 8th grade.
And I remember being in Mr. Oslin's class for it specifically.
That was
And I
my
remember-
first day of student teaching,
Oh my gosh.
showing
Wait.
up to school.
So that means that you were teaching at the middle school when I attended school there?
I was teaching in Mount Vernon at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. Well, sorry to end on that bummer of a note, but that's it this week. I think we're about to record another podcast, but that won't come out for another couple weeks by the time you hear this one. It's good to be back. Thanks for listening. You can hear our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music. And we will see you next time.